let's just go back to the future in terms of how did you get to where you are today? How did you get to start Clean.io? Where did your journey in tech and digital start?
You want me to date myself here, Jeff? Is that what we're doing? Are
Well,
we talking about how old we are?
are you comfortable about yourself? How's your
I'm
ego?
good.
How's your
I'm
self-esteem?
good. Listen, I came out of university in the 90s and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I had a communications degree. And so what do you do with that? So I found a job at the mobile phone company. And so I've been in mobile my whole career. So started at Bell Mobility in Toronto, Canada, and worked my way through a whole bunch of jobs there in the earliest days of when people like when the only thing you could do on your cell phone was make a phone call, and now you can do so many more things. And I worked my way into the unit in the early 2000s that started doing all of those features that you live and breathe with on your mobile phone now. Things like text messaging and downloading games, and at the time, downloading ringtones.
Oh
I don't know if you
yeah.
remember those,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah,
And
ringtones. Wow, that was it was companies making a fortune out of downloading ringtones for a dollar or
a
99 cents.
boatload.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I started working on those services in the earliest days of digital on your cell phone. And I migrated my way down to Verizon Wireless here in the US, which at the time and still is, I believe, one of the biggest carrier here in the US, and did the same sort of things at Verizon. And that was kind of where I got my entrepreneurial bug. I was, effectively like I looked after three things at Verizon. I was looking after games, so downloadable games on your cell phone, video on demand on your cell phone, and music and ringtones. So I was doing the deals with the record labels, doing deals with games companies like EA and those sorts of companies. And I thought I can go and do this. Like I want to go onto that side and sell my games into the wireless carrier. So I joined a little startup that was me and two other guys, and we created games on cell phones. And the biggest game that we created was we licensed the brand Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And as you remember, that TV show was a
Mm.
global success, big hit. And subsequently, we sold our company. That was the first kind of exit for me as an entrepreneur. We sold our company to Capcom, which is a Japanese video game conglomerate, one of the biggest and one of the old school. If you remember, like the late '80s and early '90s of like Mega Man and Resident Evil and Street Fighter. Street Fighter was their biggest game, but they needed to go and make progress in mobile, and so they bought our company to be a beachhead to do that in the U.S. So yeah, been in mobile my whole career. Then kind of left there, went into digital media and mobile ads, and um, ran the supply side team at Millennial Media, and subsequently we took that company public and sold that. Took that public on the New York Stock Exchange, and then sold that company to Verizon. So I ended up back at the mothership, believe it or not.
Okay.
Verizon then subsequently bought Yahoo. And so we combined all of these amazing digital assets, and I led a pretty big business on that front. Um, and then I decided to take some time off. And I was like, hey, listen, I'm going to mail it in. I'm going to be a dad. I already was a dad, but I had three kids that I barely saw because I was traveling constantly.
Mm.
Um, I wanted to pick up my golf game again. I was a decent golfer back in the day, but then I became a workaholic, and so I had stopped golfing. So I was ready to get back into golfing, and then it got to be like October, and it was too cold to golf here. And I think more so my wife was like excited for me to get out of the house, and she's like, maybe you should look around and see if you can find that next big thing. And so that's where I ran into some of the guys that I used to work with back in the day at AOL, and they had started a company called Clean Creative. And so there were five founders. These guys had started building this company that protected websites from malicious advertising. You may be familiar when you're on a website and you're scrolling, and all of a sudden it takes over the experience, and it's really detrimental to the user experience and really detrimental to revenue, because obviously it destroys your session and you kind of have a frustrating experience. You may not go back to that website. And so I ran into these guys, and they told me what they were up to, and they hadn't raised money. They were bootstrapped. And it just was that thing where I was like, oh God, like I long to get back in the trenches with a group of folks that I really want to work with
Mm.
and solve a problem that I really want to go solve. Making money is kind of like the last thing on the priority list. It's like, how do you get with that group of people that you really, can share that passion with and go out and do some amazing things? And so that's how I landed here. And that was call it 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we were probably like, I don't know, 6 or 7 people then. And we're now about 45 and, solving even bigger problems with, websites, e-commerce sites and publishers on the internet.